بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The configuration for basic RIP version 2 routing information protocol. This is a dynamic protocol that we use to permit the communication between networks inside an that we name autonomous system or inside a network. We need to configure this protocol and this three routers to permit the communication between these networks. Here we have three, and in general we have five networks. This is the first network between or the interface gigabyte 0 and router 1. This is the second network, the third network, the fourth, and the fifth network. Normally when we finish to configure RIP version 2 for this router, we can ping between these three PCs. The first step to draw out topology, the router normally need for this configuration. We have here router 1941, and here in the packet tracer we have many routers. We can use this router 2901 to 2900 series can be used as a router to configure this route, this routing protocols. For us, we will use this router 1940. This, for example, R1, R2, R1, and R3. For these two routers, we add switch to 960. We have two switches, S1, S2, and we have three computers or end devices. You can use PC or laptops. The connection between computers and switches, we use straight-through cable from fast Ethernet of the computer to the fast Ethernet, and we take care about the topology that we have from PCA to F06, from switch F05 to gigabit 01 in router 1, and so on. From gigabit 05, from fast 05 to gigabit 01 in router 1. For router from router 2, from gigabit 00 to PC 2, and from PC 3 fast 0 3 to 18, and fast from fast 0 5 to router 1 and gigabit 01. Okay, and now we have to connect these switches. Normally the cable that we use to connect routers, we use serial DCE or serial DTE. For us, we will use serial DTE that contains the clock rate, and we have to put the clock rate from the side for the connection between router 1 and router 2 from the side of router 1, and to connect router 2 to router 3, the DCE or the clock rate should be from the side of router 2. If we make clock rate from side, we don't need to put it on the next side of each serial connection. We have to use this serial. Normally we will select the serial part, but here if we check we don't have any serial port for this router. For this reason, I will access to the router to add the serial ports. First of all, we power off the router. Then here we have the serial port. I will plug it in this in the left slot, the right slot. Don't put it in the left slot because you will have different serial port numbers. Start from the right slot and power on the router. Then I do the same for other routers. Power off, add the serial port, and the same for router 3. Power off and power on. Now I can use the serial port, the serial cable DCE. The clock rate should be in the router 1. I put it or plug it in serial port 000, then to the serial port 00 in router 2. And here, if you see here, the clock rate is from the side of router 1. Okay, now from router 2 and the serial port gigabit 00 serial 001 to the serial port 001 in router 3. Okay, this is my topology. I need to use console cable to configure this routers. The nomination, we can start by adding the IP address of computers, for example, PCA, PCB, PCC. We do it now. I go to renaming the PCs, PCA, PCB, and PCC, and I will add IP address for each computer. For computer 1, PCA, sorry, desktop IP, the IP address is from the addressing table 172.30.10.3, the subnet mask, and the default gateway. We need to add this 3 information for each PCA. 172.30.10.3. Subnet must take care to put it 255, 255, 255. And we need to replace this 0 by 255 because this is the subnet mask for class less. And the default gateway, normally the same IP, but with the last part is 1, not 3. This for PCA. For PCB, desktop IP, the IP address for PCB 209.165.201.2. This the IP address. .165.201.2. Subnet mask 255, and the gateway normally the same for the IP address with the last part is 1. For PC, normally we have this IP address, and if you see here we have 3 different networks for each PC, PCA, and network 172.172.30.10.0, PCB, and the network 209.165.201.0, and PCC and another network 172.30.30.3. Desktop IP 172.30.30.3, subnet mask 255.255.255.0, and the gateway 172.30.30.1. Now I finish with IPs. I just need to add console cable to configure this router. To configure router 1, I use the console port from PCA and RS232 to router 1 and the console port. From router 2 from the console port to PCB and the RS2, and for router 3 from console port and the router to RS232 and PCC. And normally now I have to configure this part. The first part here now objective will configure RIP version 2 and each router, then configure passive interface, examine routing table, disable automatic summarization, and configure the default route. The first step is to configure this password. I will just focus to configure passwords, the names of each switch, password, assign class password for the exec privilege exec mode, then assign Cisco for the console and VTY password, and we configure the IP address relating to the addressing table. Then we finish by copying this configuration. Here configure the clock rate. Also I will add it to HDCE interface. We start with router 1 from terminal, PCA terminal, desktop terminal. Then here we select no, and we start with in the user mode, user exec mode, to ask to user to exec privilege mode, privilege exec mode. We use the command enable, then to configuration mode, configure terminal, and renaming this router with the command host name R1. Passwords, we have the first password, enable secret password class, then we ask to the line console for the line console and line VTY. To access to the line console, we put the command line console 0, and we specify the password Cisco. This is an example, Cisco, or you put admin, or you put any value for your password. Then to activate this password, we use the command login. For the line VTY, normally for the route from 0 to 4, the same password Cisco, and login. Then we exit from this line configuration, and we use the command service password encryption to encrypt this passwords. This passwords for the password that I use for line console and line VTY, but for password enable secret already encrypted with high encryption. Now I will access to each interface and add the IP address for this interface. The first, I will start with the gigabit 01 between the switch and the router. Interface gigabit 0/1. The IP address for this interface 172.30.10.1, and this represents normally the gateway for the network that contains PCA. And if you see, normally we take care about this IPs using our addressing table. Gigabit 01, this is the IP address for the interface 0 in router 1, and 255 the subnet mask. Then I will use the command no shutdown to activate this interface. No shutdown, and if you see here, the light become green. The interface now, I configure the interface serial. Interface serial, the abbreviation serial SE, or just you put S. The IP address for this interface 10.1.1.1, subnet mask 255, 255, 255.252, because it's slash 30. And the command clock rate, because here we have the clock rate in this router, and router 1, and this serial interface router 00 of router 1. We put the command clock rate. We have many values. You can find it from here for the clock rate, just by from the config for the serial. You see here we have the clock rate, and the value that we will use is 64,000, like an example. The clock rate and the interface here, I just go back to the interface serial. The clock rate 64,000, and the command now shutdown to activate this interface. Here normally I finish with the first configuration for router 1, and here I use the command copy running configuration to startup configuration. I do the same configuration now for router 2, then router 3. I go quickly to router 2 from terminal. Okay, here we put now enable configure terminal, host name R2, the password. I will not repeat the configuration for this passwords. I go to configure interfaces. Interface gigabit 00 for the interface between the router and the computer, between router 1, router 2 and PCB. IP address 2, this is the IP address for 209.165.201.1, and this represents the gateway for this interface, or for this router 255.255.255.0. Then the command now shutdown. And this router we have two serial interface, one to connect with router serial 000 with router 1, and serial 001 with router 3. For this reason, I have to configure this interface. Here, if you see the IP address that I configure for router 2 and gigabit 00. Interface serial 000, IP address 10.1.1.2, and the subnet mask 255.255.255.252. This from the addressing table. This for router 2, the serial 00. This for serial 00. Then I will configure the serial 001. The command now shut down, and you will see here in our topology when I configure this interface with the APIs, and I put now shut down. Here we don't put the clock rate because the clock rate is from the next side, اللي هو from the side of router 1. Now shut down, and if you see here the color of this connection become green, and normally here we can router 1 can communicate with router 2, but in this router 2 we have to configure the second interface اللي هي serial 001 that connect router 2 to router 3. The same command interface serial but S001 IP address, sorry, 10.2.2.2 subnet mask 255, 255, 255, 252 for this IP address, and this represents the gateway for the support. And here, because this DCE port, I will configure the clock rate, and this interface clock rate 64,000, and the command now shut down to activate this interface. Now I put N, then copy running configuration to startup configuration. Now I will finish this first configuration, or this first interface configuration with router 3. The same steps, Shabab, you can do it for all routers. Just you take care for this IPs. The same command enable from the user mode to the privilege exec mode. Configure terminal to the configuration mode. Host name to change the name of your router to R3. Then we have to access to interface. We have to configure the interface gigabit 01, then the interface serial 001. We use the command interface gigabit 01 IP address 172.30.30.3 and the subnet mask 255.255.0, and now shut down. Then we have to configure the serial interface. Here you have the interface. Change the mode to up. Change state to up. Interface serial 0/0/1. This interface that connects the router 3 to router 2. Just here I add the IP address, and I stand up this interface. IP address. Take care here 10.2.2.1 because I put 10.2.2.2 for router 2. But take care for this. Sometimes if you put it the same IP address, this will cause problems. And the subnet mask 255, 255, 255, 252. Then the command now shut down. Don't need to you will don't configure the clock rate because here this is a DTE serial interface. Now I finish to configure this routers with their interface, and normally I will copy this configuration before test the connectivity between this device with the command copy running configuration to startup configuration. for this topology, normally we have how many networks? 3 networks. How to find networks in specific topology? Each router, not each router, but each interface that exit from a router, this represents a network. But if I have 2 routers connect with one connection, this is one network. So here we will use this color. This, for example, for this network. This another network. And this another network. And normally between each routers we have another network. And we can specify the IPs for each network or network address for each area. Here we have for this network the IP address 172.30.10.0/24. For this one 172.30.30.0/24. For this one 209.165.201.0/24. And for this routers between networks between 2 routers, this 10.1.1.0/30. And for this last one 10.2.2.0/30. يلا شباب, we continue now with to test connectivity. Here but the order of steps, but no problem, this is step 10, but normally it's step 7. At this point the PCs are enabled to ping each other. Each workstation should be able to ping to the attached router, يعني the directly connected router. Verify and troubleshoot if necessary. the routers should be able to ping one another, verify the troubleshoot if insisted. يعني here we will test the connectivity between between device inside the same network. For example, here I will check this connectivity using this ping. We use the simple PDU from PCA to router 1. We have successful ping. From PCA to router 1. If we test the ping between router 1 and router 2, a successful ping. From router 2 to router 3, and from router 2 to PCB, we have successful ping, and from PCC to PC to router 3, we have successful ping. Okay, for this pinging, normally each two devices in the same network, they can ping together because this exists in the same network. But if we try to ping between devices that not in the same network, for example, between PCA and router 2, this a failed connection. Why? Because they are not in the same network. Okay? If we test the ping between PCA and PCC or PCC or PCB, I will have this because they are not in the same network. With this configuration, only devices in the same network they can ping together, because we need this to advertise this router, for example, about other networks. لأنه this router, for example, now this network اللي هو 10.1.1 and now this network 172.30.10.0. This network, to communicate with this network, we need to configure a routing protocol that permit this. A routing protocol that will inform this network about this next hop or this next network. To permit the ping with PCA and PCC, normally we will configure this router with routing protocols to know this network, and this network. These need routing protocols. And if we go to this part, in the part 2, you will configure RIP version 2 routing in all routers and the network, and then verify the routing tables are updated correctly. After RIP version 2 has been verified, you will disable automatic summarization, configure default route, and verify the end-to-end connectivity. We will start the first part of this normally step 11 to configure RIP version 2 for each router. We will start with router 1. In router 1, configure RIP version 2 as the routing protocol and advertise the appropriate networks. Advertise appropriate networks inform this route about other networks اللي هم not directly connected networks. Which networks not connected to router 1? Here we have from the privilege mode, we access to the configuration mode, then we access to routing protocol configuration. Here we select the version for RIP version. For routing information protocol, we have two versions, version 1 and version 2. We will use version 2. Then we will select the passive interface. For this interface normally should not receive any updating from the forwarding table, because when we configure the routing protocols, the router will broadcast the message, updating message for all interfaces to permit the other routers to update their routing tables. And here we will advertise networks or unknown networks for this router اللي هم for example 172.30 and 10.0.0.0. The passive interface, here information about the passive interface command stop routing updates out the specific interface. يعني here when you use with gigabit 01, you will stop sending this update message to the interface gigabit 01 for router 1. Normally this updated message should be only transferred through serial 000. We go to router 1. Here after this period we have to access again using the console password, access to privilege mode with enable. We need the enable secret password. Then we access to configuration mode. To configure our routing protocol, we use the command router RIP, this to specify which protocol, routing protocol you will use, router RIP, and to specify the version, we put version 2. The first step is to select the passive interface. This for security reason, because if you don't stop this broadcast for this interface, if this router send the update about the forwarding table, he will send it through interface serial 00 and through the interface gigabit 00. A person that exists in this router or use this computer or any computer in this network can catch this information, and this can cause problem for the security of your network. For this reason, we have to stop this by using this command passive interface, and we select passive interface. And also this will minimize the load to the network, the traffic to this network. We use the command passive interface, and we select which interface, gigabit 01. Take care to put it for interface serial 00. If you do it for 000, you will not receive any update from this for your forwarding table. Now we will advertise networks. What we mean with advertising? يعني I inform this router about unknown networks اللي ما يعرفهم، يعني الشبكات النتوركس اللي this network don't have direct connection with it. Which networks that can be considered as unknown password for this unknown networks for this router. أنا هما لا from our topology here. This router know this network or not?
Yes.
And this network?
No.
Why?
Yes.
This two directly connect network. يعني this two networks known networks for this router. The unknown networks for this router.
The router is free.
This network اللي هو اليلو network, this network, this network, and this network. I need to inform or advertise this router about these networks. How to do this? From the routing protocol configuration, we will assign each network. I will put network and the network address specified for this network. For our example, here we have the command network, and normally we put for this network 10.2.2.0. Okay? But here we have things that we name summarization. We can specify the network that can group many networks. لأنه this network اللي هو between router 1 and router 2 10.1.1.0 we can group or summarize these two networks in one network address 10.0.0.0. This will decrease the size of your forwarding table. We put it here for this reason. We use 10.0.0.0. This is the first network. The second network for this route. This network 172, the same command, network 172.30 and norm.30.30.0 if I need just to inform it about this network. But normally we have this network, when we have PCA, this network can be summarized with the network that where exists PCC. If we put this 10.172.30.0.0, this will summarize these two networks in one network. .0.0. Okay? And normally we have to specify this network. But here in this lab, the configuration for this router, for this computer, should be with a static root. Why? We suppose this computer is a server. For the server, it's most appropriate to use static roots, not dynamic roots. Okay? If you need to add it, this network, just you have to add network 209.165.201.0. Now I finish with advertising this networks to the router 2. I do it for router 1. I do it the same for router 2 and router 3. Here I put and I do copy running configuration to startup configuration, and I go to router 2 to do the same steps. Enable configure terminal router RIP version 2 and passive interface. Which passive interface here? Gigabit 0.0. But here this network not advertised. Yes or no? Not advertised. Normally we will not send any updating for this port. Lakin if you use passive interface, this will stop sending this updating for this interface. And the networks for network 10.0.0, sorry, and the second network 172.30.0.0. If I for this router, for router 2, if I don't use the summarization to advertise these networks, I need to put 172.30.10, this a network, and we add another line for the network اللي هو 30.30, this network. But if we use summarization, we can damage it like one network, and this will minimize the size of your forwarding table. This is more best for routing. Okay? And then copy running configuration to startup configuration. Now I will finish the configuration of routing protocols with router 3. The same, enable configure terminal router RIP version 2, passive interface gigabit 01, networks we start with 10.0.0.0, Here the same. If I don't use the summarization, I will put 10.2.2.0 and 10.1.1.0. I replace these two networks by one summarized networks اللي هو 10.0.0.0 and for the network the left one for when exists PCA we use 172.30.0.0 like a summarized network. Then we put and we copy this configuration from the RAM to the NVRAM of your router. Okay. Now I will try to think and show the routing table for this routers. The first, I will check which is at which step we are now. This for the configure RIP version 2 on router 3 and use the network statement to add appropriate networks and prevent routing update and all interface. Here شوف configure RIP version 2 and router 2. Do not advertise the network 209 network because this we will use static routing. Here this note, it is not necessary to make gigabit 00 interface passive on router 2 because the network associated with this interface is not being advertised. Normally this router will not send any update to this interface. Now we will examine our state of the network. The state of two serial links can be quickly be verified using the show IP interface brief to in router 2. Show IP interface brief to have quick information about this network. Here the serial 00 has the IP address 10.1.1.2. Serial 001 has 10.2.2.2. Check the connectivity between PCs. We will go to test the connectivity now between PCA and PCB. I will clear this scenario just here. Okay, to test the ping between PCA and PCC, normally we can use the simulation here, and I will start new pinging from PCA to PCC, and here we click play, and here you can see this packet transmit from PCA. This an ICMP packet. And we have this successful thing. Okay, we go back to the real time. Normally we have the real time. We have to show routing tables for each router. We go to router PCA, and here we will put the command show IP route, and here you have this R that specify routes for this destination. Okay, here we have two RIP routes. The first one here, like if you need to access to network 10.2.2.0, you can go through 10.1.1.2 and through the serial 000 اللي هو from this network to access to this network. Okay, and for the second network, if you need to go to network 172.30, is possible down routing via 10.11.12 يعني through this network اللي هو that represent the next hop or the next router. But for L and C, this for the directly connected networks اللي هم directly connected to router 1. If we test the ping between PCA and PCB, from PCA to PCB, failed connectivity.
Because we didn't advertise this.
Because this network that contain PCB not always advertised for any of this routes, router 1 or router 2. If we ping from PCC or from PCB, we have a failed connectivity. Now, the next part, we can use this command debug IP RIPV2 like updating or ask routers to exchange their paths to update their routing tables. Now, if we disable this automatic summarization, and we will see the routing table, how it should present 3 networks, not only two routes. We will use the command and router 1. Here, if you see, we have only 2 routes because we specify 2 networks. If here, when we use this kind of summarization, if we use the command to stop this auto summarization, to eliminate this auto summarization, we use the command from the router RIP. We go to configure terminal. We start with router 1. We will do it for the 3 routers. Router RIP, we don't need here to put the version because already we have this version. No auto summary. This no auto summary will eliminate this network summarization. And here we put and I will go to show routing table. IP route. We have and only one. Here we need to wait because this updating takes 30 seconds. Or we will use this command here. They ask me to use the command clear. The no auto summary command is used to turn off automatic summarization in RIP version 2. Disable auto summarization in all routers. The routers will no longer summarize routes at major class full network boundaries. Router 1 is shown here as an example. We use this command, then we will use the command clear IP route
clear the table.
أيوة.
Forward table.
To clear the routing table for the table, then we will show routers when we use the command show IP route. Clear IP route and this asterisk. Then we will show the IP route. No routes. Why?
We clear it.
We clear it. And normally the router will display only directly connected networks اللي هو the first forwarding table. بعدين this router will receive exchange this first version of routing table with neighbors, and he will receive updating from this from their neighbors, and we will after a few seconds we will see show the IP route. Here we have this network. We will do the same command for all other routers, and router 2 and router 3. Enable configure terminal. Okay, which is the command? The access to routing IP. Router rep. No. Auto summary. And we go to router 3 from PCC. Access to router 3. Router rep. No. Auto summary. And we will show IP route. If you see here, we have now 3 specified 10, 1, 1, 0. 172, 30, look here, 172, 30, 10, 0, with no summarization. Okay? We can see this for all routers. Okay, you see here, 2.2.0, and for router 2, okay, there's 3 routes, but not for this router. We have we can click here to show more. Now we have to finish with the last part. Configure and redistribute a default route for internet access. يعني suppose this computer PCB represents a web server, and we need to permit the accessing to this server through a static route. Normally we have to configure from router to create a static route to the network for zeros using the IP route command. This forwards any unknown destination address traffic to 2 gigabit 00 to word PCB, simulating the internet by sending a gateway for last resort and the router 2. This the command to create this static route. And normally when we finished by adding this static route, router 2 will advertise the route to the other routers if the default information originate command is added to its RIP configuration. يعني we configure this static route and to configure the router to advertise other routers about this static route using this configuration, this command, default information originate. So we will use router RIP, then default originate information originate, and this static route should be advertised to other routers. This from router 2 we have to access to configuration terminal, and which the command that we will use here, IP route will default IP route 4 zeros. This represent the what represent this is the network address عبارة, and its subnet mask here next 4 zeros. Add start. لا ما لا take care normally clear and do it in the exec mode, privilege exec mode, and we specify to which destination. Which destination? 209.165.201.0. Okay, this is our static route. Okay, this is our static route that I configure in router 2. Now if I access here, I put and I will show IP route in router 2. We have this static route. Where is it? This one. I need to inform if I go to router 1 or router 2 to show the the IP route, not discovered, because this like local configuration for router 2 to inform or advertise other routers about this static route. We need to use this command in router 2 اللي هي default information originate. We go to configure terminal, router RIP, then default information originate, and normally here we will permit this router to send the static route to other routers, and then we will copy running configuration to startup for all routers. Yes, I will transmit it to other routers. Here we continue to showing the routing table. Okay, with the static route here, I have this RIP routes, and this is the static route. Now if I go to router A and router 1 and router 3, we use the same command, show IP route, and if you see here this the new اللي هو represent the default route, normally that should be used to access to the internet. We can show the same for PCC, and then when we test the ping, normally we will see this. Okay, this is the default route. This is the end part of our lab. Now if we check the connectivity, between PCA and PCC, very successful. Here just we can repeat it again. Why we don't have this ping? Yes. Normally here should be work. Mm. The ping successful between all routers. Just we have when we finish this configuration to wait a period of time before pinging, and normally we'll receive and sometimes try to ping between nearest devices one by one, for example from PCC to PC to router 3, then from router PC 3 to sorry, from PCC to router 2, and this just if you repeat the ping again, inshallah should be successful ping. But this sometimes you have this field due to the forwarding. We have another command that we can use. You see here, but normally this okay, normally this our lab how to configure router RIP protocol. Try to finish this and submit it through the Blackboard.